Stop. Before you scroll past this video, before the noise of the world pulls you back into the relentless current of obligation and performance, I need you to pause and feel something. Notice your breath right now. Not the rhythm of your breathing as a habit, but the sensation of air moving into your lungs and out again. Notice if your body feels present in your skin, or if there is a faint distance, a film of dissociation that has separated you from your own physical reality for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to actually inhabit yourself. Because if you are feeling a strange sense of arrival, if you are sensing that the long search for peace, for truth, for healing, is finally settling into something tangible within your flesh, rather than remaining an idea in your mind, then you may have arrived at something rare, something ancient, something that the alchemists called the Rubedo, the red stage. In the traditional map of the soul, the journey begins in darkness, the nigredo, the rotting away of the false self. Then comes the cleansing, the albedo, the washing away of the old patterns. Then the yellowing, the citrinitas, the dawn of insight. But most people do not reach the Rubedo. They get stuck in the darkness thinking they are broken. They stay in the cleansing thinking they are unworthy. They chase the light thinking it is a place they must run toward. But the Rubedo is not a destination you travel to. It is a state of being that happens when you stop running. It is a stage where the psyche is fully integrated with the body, where the nervous system finally learns it is safe, where the intelligence of the soul descends from the abstract heavens and roots itself in the biological reality of your cells, your blood, your heartbeat. And if you are here, watching this, asking yourself if this long period of inner work has finally culminated, if the storm has finally turned into silence that does not feel like emptiness but like fullness, then I want to walk with you through the signs that tell you you are in this final stage. I am speaking not only as a student of Carl Jung but also drawing from the profound teachings of men like Dr. Gabor Mate, who spent decades teaching us that you cannot separate the mind from the body, that we cannot heal the spirit until we heal the relationship we have with our own biology, and that true recovery is not about fixing symptoms, but returning to the aliveness we were born with. If you have been doing the work, if you have been willing to face the parts of yourself that were dangerous or painful, if you have sat in the fire and allowed the structure of your personality to soften and melt so that something truer could flow into the space, you are ready to recognize where you stand. Let us begin. Before we go deeper, I need you to understand why this matters. Because if you mistake the beginning for the end, you will exhaust yourself chasing a perfection that does not exist. But if you recognize the end for what it is, you can finally rest. Most spiritual paths warn against attachment, but they rarely speak to the attachment to the journey itself. We become addicted to the growth. We become addicted to the struggle. We identify as the warrior fighting the shadow rather than the person who has made peace with it. The Rubedo is when the war ends. Not because you defeated the enemy, but because you discovered you never had an enemy. You only had parts of yourself you had abandoned. When those parts come home, there is nothing left to fight. And in the absence of fighting, a different quality of energy emerges. A red, warm, pulsing vitality that is no longer dependent on external stimulation or internal conflict to feel like it exists. This is what Gabor Mate spoke of when he talked about authenticity. He said that disease of any kind, addiction, depression, physical illness, is rooted in the disconnection from our authentic selves. When we disconnect from our truth to please others or to survive, we sicken. The Rubedo is the moment the sickness of disconnection finally resolves into the health of connection. Connection not just to other people, but to your own blood, your own breath, your own capacity to feel life without needing to modify it. Now let me show you the signs. The first sign is that your body stops protesting. For years, perhaps for decades, your nervous system has been operating in survival mode. You felt tight in your chest when things got too intense. Your stomach churned when you had to make a difficult decision. Your muscles stayed clenched even when you were resting. This was not just stress. This was your biology telling you that it was not safe to be fully awake in this environment. In the Rubedo, something subtle but profound shifts. You notice that you can sit in silence without anxiety arising. You can be in a crowded room without feeling the urge to dissociate. You can hear criticism without the old shame reflex firing up and shutting you down. The body is no longer defending against the past because it is fully present in the now. You might find you sleep differently, deeper, less interrupted. Or you find you need less sleep because the restorative power of consciousness is finally active during the day instead of just at night. This is not relaxation in the wellness sense. This is safety in the biological sense. Your parasympathetic nervous system is no longer fighting your sympathetic nervous system. They are working together. Gabor Mate emphasized that the body keeps the score, and when the Rubedo arrives, the score is settled, the debt is paid, the injury is acknowledged and metabolized, and the body, relieved of its burden of holding on to old survival strategies, allows you to live. The second sign is that your tolerance for inauthenticity drops to zero. This is not new. Most of us who do this work reach a point where we can no longer pretend. But in the earlier stages, this manifests as anger, as judgment, as a desire to correct others or expose them. In the Rubedo, it manifests as quiet withdrawal. You do not engage in the drama. You do not argue about whether your way is better. You simply choose not to play. People may feel you are distant. They may ask why you are not participating in the usual rituals of social bonding that involve gossip or performance, and you realize that you have lost the energy for it. Not because you are arrogant, but because the cost of faking connection has become higher than the benefit of having it. You would rather be alone with a cup of tea than in a room full of people pretending to know each other. This solitude is not lonely, it is fertile. You are conserving your vital energy for what actually nourishes you, and that is the mark of someone who has moved beyond seeking approval. The addict seeks the substance. The person in the Rubedo seeks the substance of life itself, and anything that dilutes it is simply set aside. The third sign is that grief transforms into compassion. There is a stage in healing where grief is overwhelming. It feels like drowning. It feels like the wound is opening and bleeding out every time you try to touch the memory. But in the Rubedo, grief becomes fluid. It moves through you like water rather than sitting inside you like concrete. When you encounter suffering in the world, in other people, in yourself, you do not recoil in horror. You do not rush to fix it or explain it away. You hold it. You allow the other person's pain to meet your own capacity to feel. There is no separation between healer and patient, just human beings meeting in the vulnerability of existence. Dr. Gabor Mate often spoke about how trauma creates a wall between us and others. When we are wounded, we protect ourselves. When we are whole, we invite connection. In the Rubedo, the wall dissolves, not because you have become naive, but because you have learned that pain is universal and that the deepest love comes from witnessing it without trying to change it. You may find yourself crying more easily, but these tears are not the tears of loss. They are the tears of recognition, tears that say, I see you, I know this, I am here. The fourth sign is that you lose interest in the future. This sounds counterintuitive. We are always told to plan, to manifest, to visualize the next step. But the Rubedo is characterized by a profound residence in the present moment. Not the spiritual bypassing present moment where you ignore your problems, but the embodied present moment where the problems are met, exactly as they are, right now, without the layer of worry about tomorrow. You stop trying to arrange your life so that you will not suffer in the future. You learn that suffering is part of being alive and that your capacity to handle it is built in the marrow of your bones. You trust the next moment to bring what it brings. You trust that you will know what to do when the time comes. This is a huge release of tension, because the majority of human anxiety is the story we tell ourselves about what might happen. When the story quiets down, the Rubedo reveals itself. Right now, if you feel that shift happening in your chest, if you feel the loosening of the grip on time, type 7 and 7 in the comments below. The frequency of the person who has moved from surviving to being. The signal that you are no longer waiting for your life to begin. The declaration that you are ready to inhabit the ground beneath your feet right now. Type it now, as a vow to stop chasing tomorrow and start living today. The field always responds to those who declare themselves with presence. The fifth sign is that your boundaries become invisible. We spend years learning how to set boundaries, how to say no, how to protect our energy. This is essential work, but the goal of setting boundaries is not to build walls forever. The goal is to arrive at a place where violation does not happen because you do not allow it unconsciously. In the Rubedo, you do not have to announce your boundaries. People sense them naturally. They know that crossing into your space requires permission. They know that you are solid, unshakable, real. You do not perform boundaries. You embody them. And paradoxically, as your protection becomes stronger, your openness increases because you no longer fear the cost of intimacy. You know you cannot be consumed. You know you can hold another person without losing yourself. This is the state Gabor Mate described as authentic relating, where two people meet fully, without masks, without agendas, without using the other to complete their own internal voids. The sixth sign is that you feel a return of playfulness. Childhood is often marked by play, but trauma turns play into work. We turn hobbies into careers. We turn relationships into responsibilities. We turn curiosity into achievement. In the Rubedo, the gravity lifts. You find yourself laughing at things that seem silly. You find yourself exploring for the sake of exploration rather than for a result. You pick up an instrument you put down years ago just to hear the sound. You cook just to taste the food. This play is not frivolous. It is the expression of a nervous system that knows it does not need to earn its right to exist. When you are forced to work for survival, you cannot play. When you know you are safe, play returns. And play is the highest form of creativity because it is action without attachment to outcome. The seventh sign is that you feel heavy again. This one is the most confusing. After years of spiritual practice, we often aim to feel light, ethereal, disembodied, floating above the mess of life. But the rubedo is the return to the earth. Literally, the word means red, the color of iron oxide, the color of blood, the color of clay. You stop feeling like a spirit trapped in a machine. You start feeling like a creature alive in a body. You feel hunger more acutely. You feel fatigue. You feel the weight of your limbs. This heaviness is not negative. It is density. It is solidity. It is the feeling of grounding. You are no longer floating away from the pain of the world because you are finally strong enough to carry it. You are standing on the ground again. And when you stand on the ground, you cast a shadow. You are subject to gravity. You are vulnerable to weather, but you are also stable. You are rooted. You are capable of bearing fruit. Now, I want to give you something practical because arriving in the rubedo does not mean you are finished. It means you have entered the phase of maintenance and expansion. And there are ways to support this fragile new stability. The first thing is to honor your body, not as a vessel to be optimized, but as the seat of your consciousness. If your body is tired, you rest. If your body is hungry, you eat. Not according to rules, but according to signals. Listen to the signals. If they scream for movement, move. If they scream for stillness, be still. Do not override the wisdom of your physiology with the demands of productivity culture. The second thing is to limit exposure to chaos. Just because you are healed does not mean you should throw yourself into the lion's mouth to prove it. Healing is delicate. Even in its strength, it needs care. Protect your energy field. Avoid environments that demand you revert to survival modes. Say no to situations that trigger the old loops. Not because you are weak, but because you value the peace you have cultivated. The third thing is to keep practicing the witness. Even when you feel whole, do not confuse wholeness with stagnation. Keep observing your thoughts. Keep checking your reactions. Keep asking yourself the simple questions that kept you honest during the hard times. Am I doing this from fear or from love? Am I speaking to connect or to control? Am I acting or reacting? The practice does not stop. It changes shape from the desperate practice of escaping pain to the joyful practice of inhabiting truth. If you have stayed with this video to this point, I want to acknowledge something. You have walked the path. Many started with you and fell off. Many gave up when the dark night became too long. Many got stuck in the intellect and never made it to the body. But you are here, and what you are experiencing right now is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the true life. Gabor Mate said once that the question that determines whether a person survives or thrives is whether they are related to something greater than themselves, whether they feel connected to the stream of life that flows through them. The rubedo is the feeling of that connection becoming undeniable. It is the knowledge that you are not a drop struggling in the ocean. You are the ocean, temporarily appearing as a drop, and knowing that the need to push, to perform, to prove evaporates. What remains is simply to be, to walk the earth with awareness, to breathe the air with gratitude, to love people with boundaries, to create art without demand, to die eventually without fear. All of this is the privilege. Carl Jung, who mapped the territory we are walking, said near the end of his life that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That becoming is complete, not permanently because we are always changing, but essentially you are no longer hiding from who you are. You are living the truth of your biology. You are honoring the history of your lineage without being bound by it. You are holding your heart open without breaking it. This is the rubedo, the red sun rising not in the sky but in the blood. So if you recognize yourself here, do not announce it loudly. The ego loves the label of enlightenment. The self prefers the silence of the work. Keep walking quietly. Keep showing up. Keep trusting the body. Type 7Fed87 in the comments if you feel the weight of this truth in your bones. If you feel that you have arrived at a place where you no longer need to run. Subscribe if your soul is hungry for this depth. Share this with one person you know who is tired of the running, who is ready to land. Give them permission to stop striving. Give them permission to arrive. And remember, your body is the temple you have been building your entire life. Do not leave the sanctuary now that the doors have opened. Stay. Breathe. Life, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you have done the work. Now you have the life.